Can you test something? No. At the Mishnah, right? Okay. At the Mishnah. Can be interesting, Gemara. You have two co-wives. One says my husband died. The other says my husband didn't die. They're co-wives, bear in mind you, okay? So Zu Shomra Meis, she who says he died, Tinasi, she can get remarried. If you told Ksuva, she can get a Ksuva. Zu Shomra Lo Meis, she who said he didn't die, Lo Tinasi, she can't get remarried. Lo Tito Ksuva, she can't get a Ksuva either. Achos Omer's Meis, one says she died, Achos Omer's Nerag. And the other says he was killed. Okay, difference. Died or killed. Since they contradict each other, they're not allowed to get remarried. The flex good. They both agree he's no longer alive, right? Why don't let him get married? Okay, we're going to see. But I didn't have time today. Tuesday is always my worst day because of having prepared a double shiur. But I didn't have time today to look up the Bavli. But a lot of the stuff we're going to see tonight is not. You should just see from the side notes. Some of it is in the Bavli and some of it is not in the Bavli. Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Hila B'Shem Rabbi Elazar said, "Moeder Meir B'Rishoda." Meir concedes in the first case where one of them says that he's dead, the other says he's not dead. That the one who said he's dead can get remarried, the one who says not dead cannot get remarried. Okay? So, Ashkech Tani, however, then we found the Brisa. Only Machlokas? No, it's a Machlokas, even in the first case. Even the first case, Meir does not concede. He says there's a contradiction. But according to the opinion however, that Rav Meir only argues in the second case, Rishona, what's the difference between the second case and the first case? Rishona, so in the first case, it's interesting. Lasu should be devareha, it should be devareha. Lasu devareha etzel chaverta klum. A tzara has no credibility vis-a-vis her co-wife. So if the tzara says he's alive, we don't believe her because we know that she must be it's very, very likely she's coming just to mess the other co-wife over, right? And that's what she's saying is life. So we just ignore her, right? But in the end of the Brisa, where both of them are trying to get out of the marriage independently, so then we take both of their statements into account and they contradict each other. Okay? If one of them says he's still alive, we just discard that statement because we figure that she's doing it just to spite the other one. But if they're both saying he's dead, it must mean that each one of them is trying to get out of the marriage. And they're both trying to get out of marriage independently. Each one is a different story, so we can't trust them. That's Rabbi Meir's perspective, who says when one says died and one says killed, that you can't believe them. Amar Elazar says, Rabbi Shimon be'edim. Rabbi Elazar says that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon agree that if witnesses come and say, one says dead and one says killed, that we have to discard the witnesses. We can't accept them. As opposed to the case in Mishnah. So it's witnesses and a co-wife. So the difference is that they take that we do not believe a co-wife against her friend to a greater extreme than Rav Meir. Rav Meir holds we take that only in the ratio. We say only in the ratio, but in the Sefer we do accept what the co-wife is saying. Each co-wife is saying the guy's dead. However, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, they say that we do not take that. We take that statement even further, and we say when one wife says that she's dead, he's dead, and the other wife says he was killed. So then also we don't allow each one to stare to undermine the testimony of the other vis-a-vis herself. However, when Eidim come, and Eidim say that one aid says that he died and one aid said he was killed, then we have to take both of them into account, and they clash, and therefore they cancel each other out. Right? Rabbi Yochanan said, Rabbi Elazar said this vote. many shama, from me he heard it. The Amra had said, in other words, he stole my toicha. Talmud Tzim learned over there. This is a couple of times in Yerushalmi. We had it back. It was previously in Yevamos. Somebody brings it down here on the side, or the Gilead Ephraim may brings it down. They had previously in Yevamos or somewhere else. I think Yevamos. That Rabbi Yochanan got upset at Rabbi Lezer for not having said things in his name. Now, what is the case which Rabbi Yochanan was talking about? A very interesting series now I have, and I don't believe this is in the Bavli, but just again by looking at the side here, but I also don't remember anything of this sort. Talmud Tzim, we learned over there, Mishailu, Shtei, actually, I don't know, maybe it's in Nazir, what do I remember in Nazir? Mishailu, Shtei, Kitei, Eidim, so. You had two groups of witnesses testing about an individual. Elam Eidim also Shenazar Stein. Now, these two say he accepted upon himself 2 Naziruyos. And the Elam Eidim shows so Shenazar Chamish, said he accepted upon himself 5 Naziruyos. Now, there are two ways of accepting 2 or 5 Naziruyos. Give me two possible ways in which it would work.
There's a minimum of 2 Nazirs that he did accept. They both agree on.
Yeah, but what did he verbalize?
He said, me too.
No, that's not bad. But there are two possibilities. There's a possibility a klal and a prat. A klal is where he said he wants to be a nazir 5 times. One A to say that we heard him say he wants to be a nazir 5 times. The other say we heard him say he wants to be a nazir 2 times. The other way of doing it is if he says 5 times in a row, Hareini, 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 Hareini. Right? Each time I want to be. All right? So that's 5 separate pledges. Or 2 pledges. Okay, the first way is called klal. In other words, he said he wants to be nazir X times. Times 5, times 6, right? That's a klal. The second way is a prat. He's mefarish one that says Hareini, 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 Hareini. Okay? See the 2 different types of possibilities? That's where it's going to discuss them now.
The second time it may be more believable because maybe the other said I only heard him say the first 2 times and didn't hear him say the last 2.
Maybe. Right, and then where it's going to take it into account. Okay, so it says Gemara, Rav Amar, Rav says, B'chlal mechluku. The argument Beisil and Beishamai in Masechta Nazir is what happens when one set says they heard him say times 2, and the other aid said they heard him say times 5. Avo befrat, but if each one said, if he said Hareini, Hareini, and the machlokas is whether he stopped after 2 Harainis and went on to 5 Harainis, so kol ha'momoiti, everybody agrees sheyesh b'chlal. Here, this is b'chlal means not in its other sense of the generality, but included in chamesh is shtayim. That included in 5 is 2, she knows is shtayim. So if he counted and said 5 and 2, right? One guy said 5. One witness said they heard 5. And the other one said they heard 2, right? So in that case, you can't. It might be a total machlokas, and Beishai would say it's no good because it's a clash. But if one said we heard him say Hareini twice, and the other said they heard him say Hareini 5 times, so then even Beishamai would agree that 2 times at least he's got to be a nazir. Okay, so that's Rabbi Yochanan's perspective. That's Rabbi's perspective, which makes sense, right? On Rabbi Yochanan it says no. B'moinen echluku. The argument was dafka moinen and prat means the same thing. The argument was when he counted individually and said Hareini, Hareini, Hareini. But if the argument between the 2 sets of witnesses was whether he said 2 or 5, even Beis Hillel concedes nechluko edus. There's a clash on the edus, faint on the zeros, so he doesn't have to keep any of the zeros. All the zeros is undermined, right? Because one said 2 and one said 5. And once you mention numbers, so it clashes, right? Says more Vaidinu Kla, Vaidinu Mon, and now the more explains what we just said. What's considered to be a general cloud? What's considered to be counting? Cloud is when Hayna Martati. This one says 2. Hayna Marchameshna says 5. Mona is when Hayna Mar one says they heard Chadotarte once, twice. Hayna the other group says they also heard Tlas Arba Chamesh 3rd, 4th, and 5th time was saying Hareini Nazir.
It's the same as prat. Mona is same as...
Mona and Prada are the same thing. Mona and Prada, same thing, counting and specifying. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rav says, Hikrish Edus, and Rav, we derive this, Rav says, Hikrish Edus Besoch Edus, if there's a chosha within the testimony, not a direct clash, but there's a contradictory element within the testimony, so lo batel edus. The edus is not null and void, right? Whereas Rabbi Elazar, Hikrish Edus Besoch Edus, if there's a inconsistency within the testimony, batel edus, the taka cancels. So if we're going Rav, one said 2, one said 5, everybody agrees it was Nazirus. The question is the number, we go by the minimum number. According to the other opinion was Rabbi Yochanan, not true. That's considered to be a complete and total clash, and we discard both of them. Okay? It says more further. Where am I up to? Everybody agrees if the clash is on the aspect which came after the actual major testimony, so then lo batel edus, the testimony is not null and void, and we're going to give examples. Rabbi Yochanan Kedaite, Rabbi Yochanan follows line of opinion. Dam Rabbi Chia bar Rabbi Ba and Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Huchza kamoina. Let's say that the guy was seen counting out coins to make a loan, the lender. And once said he counted out the coins from a pocket. And once said he counted out the coins from a bundle, right? So Hichish edus v'soch edus. That is a contradiction within the testimony. From what was he counting out the coins? V'af Rav moedish batel edus. In that case, Rav also conceded that the edus is null and void. Mapligin, what's the case where they argue? Kshayu shtei ketim, when there are two groups of witnesses. Oh, this is important. I glossed over this. It's very important. Previous cases, one guy says he was counting out of the wallet, and the other guy says he was counting out of his purse. It's not 2 on 2, it's 1 on 1. And that's why they're not mitzdarif. Because there's inherent contradiction in their testimony, they can't be mitzdarif. However, says the Gemara, Mapli, what's the machlokas? When there are two groups of witnesses. These say, that he counted from the pocket. They counted from the purse. Hikish edus besoch edus. According to Rabbi Yochanan, edus has been cancelled within the with edus. Batel edus, so we remove both groups. Okay, batel edus. We're going to Rav. The edus is not batel. We let each group testify in this event.
In this case, though, it's not really Hikish edus besoch edus because each group, each group is giving different edus. It's an edus within edus. It's each one is.
Well, but it's about an episode which is purportedly the same one. That's its edus, right? Now, what about Elamim? The Selchei Komona. That after the borrower got the money, he counted it into his bosom. Others say he put it into his pack. Mona. In that case, everybody agrees. The event has already occurred. The lawyer already got the money. Now he's just putting it away. That's a chosha after the edus. Contradiction after the edus. What do we say about contradiction after the edus? Lo batel edus. Edus is not null and void. Zomer, a similar case, let's talk about death. Zomer Makil one says, one witness says he was killed by a stick. The Zomer B'Sayver was killed by a sword. So Hikish edus b'soch edus, that's contradiction internally within the edus, batel edus, edus is null and void. Even though both say Yanko killed Beryl, but each one says differently, and therefore it doesn't start. Rav batel edus. So Rav also concedes that the edus is null and void. Mapligin, what's the machloiket? When there are two groups of witnesses. These say was killed him with a stick. With a sword. He the testimony is canceled within the testimony. The testimony is not void. According to Rav, the testimony is not null and void. Now, the thing is like this. Actually, the Gemara is going to come out and say that in this case, well, what should I tell you? We'll go on.
Serious stuff, though. There's the officials.
Yes. And no, he's not going to. He made me give away the secrets. We'll wait till the bottom of the Yoma. You'll find out. In the meantime, yes, you should be disturbed and discombobulated for at least 10 lines. Now, the question is what way did the murderer turn after he left the scene of the crime, right? So this guy says he had a getaway car in the south. But somebody got a getaway car in the north. But he agrees that's a kosher after the testimony is over. Lo about later say this is not null and void. We can agree on that? Okay? Rav's that which sustains Rav is in the following statement. Rabbi Shem Rabboni and Rabbi Yehuda Amrim Asherita both said, since both groups agree that he's no longer, since each of the women agree that the husband is not alive, so therefore, sue. They can get married. So says Gemara, however, the catch is, below Shmiya, Rav did not hear. Actually, the hear did not hear means he didn't hold, right? He didn't hear, right? That the Mar Rabbi Lezer, that which Rabbi Lezer and Mother Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, and even Rabbi Shimon concede, where it's witnesses which contradict each other, that we do not accept them. So he didn't accept that, Rav, and he said even if it's witnesses that contradict each other or family members that contradict each other, the bottom line is that we go l'kula, and we say that the husband's dead, right? No matter what we say, the husband's dead. Okay, says the shaila is if according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, why do we say cancel out the Edom, whereas we don't cancel out the Tzoros when they argue? Says Gemara, the words of a tzara do not play any relevance vis-a-vis her sister-in-law, so therefore, I'm sorry, scratch that. Not sister-in-law, co-wife. Let me do it again. In other words, when witnesses contradict each other, so then I say that you cannot follow the witnesses if it's internal, right? But where a tzara, a co-wife, and the wife contradict each other, so then you can follow each wife independently because the wives intended to mess each other up, so therefore we don't take each other into account. Am I making sense? Is that getting across? Yeah, but we ignore the contradiction. Because we don't listen to a tzara of Malcolm Chaverta.
And that's in both cases where the two versions of that they're dead and also...
Right, according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, we never listen to her, right? But we do listen in the case where two Edom contradict each other, and there we can't let it go on. Okay, Masisa Plia Rav, it seems that the following by Sorgas of Rav, it says, both types of checks of cross-examination, without getting into the details right now. If the witnesses contradict each other, their testimony is null and void, right? So if that's the case, it's not like Rav, because Rav says, as long as the akosha is in the akosha is in something which is not, the akosha is not, is there even lacher over here?
It was about whether you cook them with a stick or a knife.
Yeah, no, so the Korban Eid explains it. In the third Korban Eid from the end, third line from the end, Hiddusim B'dikos are non-essential. Right? That's the kasha. B'dikas are like what way was the tree pointing? What way was the wind blowing? So it's not an essential thing, and it says there that even if they're makish and b'dikas, we do not kill the person who's be up for execution. So going to Rav, that should be like la'achar edus. That's what you're saying, right? There's a non-essential component. It should be la'achar edus. So why does it bother us?
Because in what we learned before, it wasn't la'achar edus. It was the weapon for the murder.
That's true. Now we're talking about the separate thing, about bedikos. That's chakiros. What was the murder weapon? But bedikos, like what way was the wind blowing? Why should it make a difference if they contradict each other, right? So I said, Batul Rav, aid paid. This is talking about when it's one witness on another witness, and that's why we can't square them together, because we said one witness on another witness is more severe than when you have 2 against 2. So,
the usual discussion in this whole thing is making a distinction between Adis and Nanonis. And this Gemara doesn't really care about that distinction, because we're making an analogy between what the women say independently and compare that to what Adam testified.
Yeah, but we will make a difference. I'd rather you save that comment until after next Mishnah, because we'll see in next Mishnah. Then see if you still find the common value. I feel because even though he didn't say something about group on group. Normally group on group. Rav says we let each group come independently, let the chips fall where they may. Shani b'din nefashos, it says tzedek tirdof, pursue justice. What's Bavli's pasuk to teach us the same thing? V'tzilu ha'eda. We do whatever we can to save the person from the death penalty. So here, the Yerushalmi is supposed to say here to pursue justice. Say that it's too late, and that's why, even though usually Rav will accept 2 contradictory groups of witnesses, he won't accept it by, as long as it's not this one witness and one witness, he won't accept it by din nefashos. So yes, you're right. By din nefashos, we don't actually follow Rav's normal pattern. Okay, because here it'd be too big a chumrah. Okay, Allah above. One witness says he died, one witness says he did not die. One woman says he died, one woman says she didn't die. Should not get married. Preferably should not get married. So it says the Gemara, Kido bar minyamin, Shem Rab said, B'chol makom shechshir edus isha ki ish, wherever they said a woman is kosher to testify just like a man, ha'ish machish as isha, the woman undermines the man undermines the woman, contradicts her, and the opposite is true as well. Korban Adam, Bnei Moshe bring down from the Tosefta, v'ha'isha machish as ha'ish. It's always one-on-one. Both the Kula and the Chumrah. Okay? So if we believe a woman, we give it the same credibility as a man. So it says not exactly. Nisne aid omer meis v'isha omer slomes. What about where the one witness says that there was a death, and the woman says there was no death. One co-wife says there was no death, and one co-wife says there was a death.
One man, one male.
I'm sorry. Nisa Edomer Mace, one witness says he died. Pishomer Slomes, and a woman says he didn't die. Or Ishomer's Mace, right? Okay, either of these cases. Ishomer's Mace, Ve'edomer Lo Mace. In other words, if it's a man, a woman, or woman, a man. So Tani Rebbe Cain, Rebbe said in this case the same thing we said before, that we paskin like we go after the sorry. Tani the base Rebbe Cain means he learned the Mishnah like that. It said it's really a question and answer. Instead of saying Edomer Mace, Edomer Lo Mace, Ishomer Mace, Ishomer Lo Mace, let it say Edomer Mace, Ishomer Lo Mace, Ishomer Mace, Edomer Lo Mace. Let's juggle it up a little bit in our Mishnah, right? Am I making sense? I didn't think so. It's a technical question on the Mishnah. If you're going to say a man and woman are equivalent in their stature vis-a-vis this Eidus, so why does it say Eidomer A and Eidomer B? And Ishomer is A and Ishomer is B. Have it as an aid against an Isha and an Isha against an aid. And that'll make that point to a greater extent that a witness and a male witness and a female witness are equivalent in stature when it comes to this issue. That's the Mor's question. And the more answers, Tani, ain't a Chanami. Says Taka, Rebbe learned the Mishnah that way. He amended the Mishnah to read aid on Isha and Isha on aid as opposed to aid on aid and Isha on Isha. Is that clear now? Okay. See, I'm fighting desperately to stay awake tonight. So to some extent it's working. Okay. Says Gemara further. Tani v'shem Rabbi Nechemia. We learn the name Rabbi Nechemia. Hochin Acharov. What does the word say by you? Wrong. It's not Edus, but rather Acharov. What do you suppose it should say? Deus. Suppose if Ha Edus, it should be Deus. Or is it 500? If one woman says he's dead, and two women says he's not dead, so we go after the majority of women, and vice versa. So there's a catch to it. Says the Gemara, is it true? If you have two women against one woman, so you go after the two women. Also, so just like two witnesses and one witness. However, that Rishim Nashim, it's if everybody was a woman. If you had one bunch of women and one man, it's like 1-on-1. Okay? Women, no matter how many they are, they don't add more credibility over one as opposed to men. Okay? How many reasons have we had not to teach Yerushalmi to women?
1,000.
Yerushalmi is not so bad, right? Okay. A woman went, she and her husband, to Chutzlaretz. When she came back and said, my husband died, Tina say she's believed she can get remarried. She took Suva, and she can take a Suva. However, Tzarasa, her co-wife, cannot get remarried on that basis. She's stuck. She's forbidden. And if the co-wife was a Bas Yisrael, and the deceased husband, the purportedly deceased husband was a Kohen, even though the one of them has already gone and remarried, the second one is still Tocha B'Truma, she's still leading Truma from her first husband. So we're still alive, even Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Akiva said, give me a break. Akiva Omer, Eiza Derech Motzia Midei Aveira. This is, which way is going to take her out of doing an Aveira? She's going to be eating Truma, no, she's potentially awesome. Achete Asurli Nase, right? She's forbidden to get remarried, but Asurli Milach of Truma is not allowed to eat Truma either. Okay? So we have to borrow from both. Says the Gemara, we see from our Mishnah, a woman is willing to be makalkel herself, to claim her husband is dead and get remarried, just so her tzora should get remarried too, and find her kids be mamzerim as a result. Women's are so hateful, so spiteful of her co-wife, she's willing to undergo that in order to get Tomos Nafshim Aplishtim, let me die with the Philistines, right? So it says, so why do we let her get remarried herself? Maybe she's too sweet in order to get back at her stinking, rotten co-wife, right? So it says the Gemara, since we know that we basically made a takana d'rabbanan, that we do not listen to her vis-a-vis her sister, so she's only talking about herself now, and it's only talking about herself, she'll only say the truth, and not on anything else. So this is more, if that's the case, if we know she's telling the truth, because she's only talking about herself, so let's turn it around, and say, let her be believed on her co-wife as well, which is a funny question. Because the truth is, if she and the Gemara immediately gives the answer. On my Hila said, no, if you did that, you'll kill Clarishon. That was the whole point. We don't want her to believe on her co-wife, because if she believes on her co-wife, she's going to lie about herself to get at the co-wife. Right? So we can only believe her about herself, not about the co-wife, right? Because otherwise, she were afraid that she's going to ruin herself in order to ruin her co-wife as well. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, we don't, but we have to, bottom line is to call and believe vis-a-vis yourself, not vis-a-vis a co-wife. What about vis-a-vis a mother-in-law? Amar Meis Bali. She said, my husband died, V'achakach Meis Chami, and then my father-in-law died. Tina.
It's not that different than the applicability of it. It's really tangential. You know, like Automason Russia.
Oh yeah.
It's
Very similar.
It's like
Right. It's like Magin Dibur, that's right. Only Yerushalmi, of course, doesn't use that phrase. Amar Meis Bali. She says, my husband died, V'achakach Meis Chami, then my father-in-law died. Tina says she's allowed to get married, V'titok Suvasa. She can take her Suva. Chamos Asura, however, her mother-in-law remains awesome. If her mother-in-law was the Bas Yisrael to Kohen, Torah b'Truma shv'Yisrael Truma, they Rabbi Tarfon. He Omer, Ezu Derech, Motzim v'De'averis, this guy's going to get her out of doing Averis. Hachetei Asur li Nasei, it's got to be forbidden to get remarried, V'Asur l'Ochel Truma, and forbidden to eat Truma. Now ask the Gemara, V'Tehineh Menes, L'Emar Meis Chami, why is she not believed? The Chazim Sofer says, after she's remarried, why is she not believed? Why is the daughter-in-law? Daughter-in-laws are not believed in Moshe because they hate each other. But once she's married to somebody else, is really what he says. It's Tosfos Kasha in the Bavli Yevamos, but the Yerushalmi here means to ask it itself. Once she's married to somebody else, why can't she believe vis-a-vis her mother-in-law? It's not her mother-in-law anymore.
Still spiteful from the previous.
You looked ahead. No, just kidding. So Tosfos in the Bavli says lo pluk. You don't draw a distinction because since she was spiteful before, she remained spiteful. But that's not what the Yerushalmi says. Or it's not a lo pluk. Rather, Yerushalmi says it's inherent. So Naaman, look at time, remember, then we say she ain't in minutes of law. Where is she not believed on her? Then we say that she's not believed on her. Kishem she'ein amonis on the Torah. Kishem she'ein amonis aleh. She's not believed on the Torah. Kad he ein amonis aleh. So too she's not believed on her mother-in-law. Why not? Tapi pei amrav, pei alvarav. Our mechinech eseti poter explained shoya chameh kain v'sima. We're talking specifically. It's a big nafkamina halacha. It's only if her mother-in-law lived with her in the same city and they recognize each other. Then she's never believed on her mother-in-law because she hates her guts. But if her mother-in-law was far, far away and they never had any interactions, then she actually would be believed on her own mother-in-law when she got married to somebody else, because what vested interest does she have anymore, right? They never knew each other, and therefore they never got an opportunity to hate each other, so therefore there's not going to be any assumption that it's anything more than a strange woman for her, and therefore she can testify as to all the things she's permitted to testify. Okay? Halacha des. Kiddush achas mi chamesh noshim. You married one of 5 women. They all showed up in white to the chuppah. Ve'enil dua ezu kiddush. You don't know which one you married. Kol achas v'achas omeres oisi kiddush. Each one says he married me. No, he doesn't get the kol achas v'achas. Got to give a get to each one. Uksuva b'neim, and he puts a get ksuva among the 5 of them. Umitzdalik, and he better run away quick. Divrei Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Kiva omer ezu derech motzios b'dei avera. Doesn't take him away from an avera. Acha yitain get until he gives a get. Uksuva and a ksuva l'kol achas v'achas. That is a major, major monetary proposition, right? Gazel lechem michamish. Assuming if you stole from 5 people, from 1 of 5 people, if any do as they don't know which one you stole from. Each one says, "I see goes on." He says, "You stole from me." Believe the gzeil among them, and you run. Rabbi Tarfon. Derech does not get him out of an avera until he gives back the equivalent to the gzera, the gzela to each and every one. What?
Who's lying here? Is it the Goslin?
Yes.
Or is
Yes.
it the Nigzala?
The Goslins are lying.
No, it's,
Oh, they're all lying.
yeah, even the Nigzala.
But that's tough. Your chiyuv tshuva transcends that. That's what we're saying. Because you were an idiot, so you have to overcome that fact.
But back in the Kasubas,
What?
the women are lying, not him.
Steal it.
I know.
The thief. Why did he steal from somebody you didn't know? Idiot. You should have checked the identity card before he stole from them. Okay?
That's the second case. But the first
Right. Second case, you should have checked who the girl was.
Okay.
It's a Leah Rachel complex. Okay. Amar Rabbi Asir, I said, Mesisa Rabbi Akiva look Rabbi Tarfa. Amar is going like Rabbi Akiva, not like Rabbi Tarfa now, so. The Yitzhak we learned over there. Amar Lishna, oh, no, not our mission, sorry, Mishnah B'Matzir, we're about to learn, it's like Rabbi Akiva, not like Rabbi Tarfa. Sorry. How so? The Tanya we learned over there, Mishnah B'Matzir, Tanya Tamon, Amar Lishna, the guy says to two people, goes out here, says, Chod Mikem, I stole from one of you. Any of days Mikem, who? I don't know which one. Or, of you Shechon Mikem, the father of one of you guys, Hivkinet gave me $100 for safekeeping. Any of days Mikem, I don't know which one of you. No, see, Zemona. He's got to give a full amount to each one separately. What? Surely the answer because he conceded the point that it potentially is chayv on both. So what we see here is a fundamental. Oh, not yet. So that seems to be like Rabbi Akiva, right? Because it says that he has to pay each one. Rabbi Akiva said, no, Divra Kolhu. There it's about going everybody. Oimer or Divra Kol Oimer. But let's say it. No, Divra Kolhu. Omer Tzedei Shemaim was saying is Midoraisa. Midoraisa, you might be off the hook from strict Torah law, but you have to get back twice in order to be Yotzei Yerchiv and Shemaim, right? Because you didn't exonerate yourself completely, because maybe you gave it to the wrong guy, or maybe the wrong guy chopped it when you put it on the floor. So therefore, you want to be Yotzei Shemaim, even if you be tarful. You have to bring for both of them. Okay, is that clear? No?
Well, so that contradicts Rav Tarfon.
No, because our Tarfon Amish is talking about what he has to do according to Torah law. According to Torah law, he can leave the gzeil among them and run away. But he wants to be Yotzei Shemaim, he shouldn't burn in hell for it, so then he has to give each person.
When you say burn in hell, isn't that from the Torah law, or this is just
Yeah,
the
right.
Rabbana?
Torah lets you burn in hell if you want. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the idea. Yeah. Torah saying you take your chances. Rabbana saying you can't take your chances.
So it's not Lifnim Mishur Sadin, it's actually, it's Torah law.
It's a question.
Yeah, well, yeah. Just because I don't know if Torah law is the right word, but law. What do you mean by Torah law?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you what I mean by Torah law. Because it seems to me that this is just Midrabanan. This is Lifnim Mishur Sadin. If you want to make sure that everyone gets their money back, then you give it to
Make sure
both.
the right person.
But according to
Maybe I take back what I said to Rabbana. The limit is when you want to just be Yotzei, what you need to do, and when you be Yotzei in order to avoid Gehenna.
Oh,
Does that make it any better?
avoid Gehenna according to who, the Rabbanan or?
But he came back and said to each one of them. There's no question. Of course you're going to avoid Gehenna. But if you just came back to Pruta to, one guy, so you're not going to avoid any Gehenna. Because maybe you gave it to the wrong guy.
yeah, you may not give it to the right guy.
Okay?
but-
50-50 or less, whatever chance it is. Might fill. Is that, are we in the same wavelength now? Doesn't look like it.
I still don't understand why this doesn't contradict what Rav Tarfon said.
No.
But that's what I'm trying to do. What Gemara is saying, the difference between Shura Sadin and Yotzei Sidei Shemaim. You call it Lifnim Shura Sadin.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
That's fine. But Lifnim Shura Sadin is not a Rabbanan concept.
Okay.
Or Sisa Yasher Vatov, Yisim Nikim, Hashem Yisrael, all sorts of psukim which indicate that so the right is a concept as well. Okay. Says what Rabbi Bobby Shem Rabbi said, Kanshish Eidim Yodim, Kamshin Yodim Yodim, it depends if the witnesses will know or not. If there are no witnesses, then all he has to Rabbi Darfan all he has to do is put one in the middle, right? And leave. But if there are witnesses, so then he has to, the witnesses, know that he took it, so then he has to pater by giving to each one. I don't fully understand why the witness issue should make such a significant difference. Who cares if it's witnesses or no witnesses? We're saying where there are witnesses, so then he has to be more meticulous about giving back. And the reason Pnei Moshe says that it's true is because otherwise, potentially, each group, each person of the 5 potential Nigzalim will enlist a witness and say, these are my witnesses. So therefore, he has no choice but to give back to each one of them.
What about a Muslim provider?
Well, that's why, what?
It doesn't apply here?
Not necessarily because he admitted that he stole. So we don't need a right that he stole. The only question is how we pay back. Right. Okay? Says Rabbi Hila b'sher realized that kam b'shokin kam b'darva. Depends if they're silent or they're speaking. If they're silent, then I say, I forgot. Yeah, if they're silent, the Nigzalim are silent, so you just put one among them and ran away. If they're speaking and loudly claiming they're good, so then you have to, what? You have to placate all of them, right? Rishim Rav said, Karmanishba, Kamashalonishba, the Tenson took an oath or didn't take an oath. Once he took an oath denying that he'd stolen any money, then he's got to pay back each one of them. He had not taken an oath, so he just paid back one of them. And the Gemara gives a very interesting reason for that. Well, actually, Yochanan argues, but you obviously it's an interesting argument. Escrow. Rabbi Yochanan Savar Meimah, because Rabbi Yochanan holds, and now we have the word Beis about 6 gazillion times in the next few lines. They should all be Shliach Beis, the agent of Beis, not Beis itself. Rabbi Yochanan holds Shliach Beis Shaso Goizel Lo Shliach Beis Shaso Nigzo. Yeah, right. Yochanan says the guy who was the thief could make a shliach to hold an escrow, and that's what he should have done, not distributed to all of the people, not to all the claimers. Thank you. He should have just get hold of an escrow. Even if he took a shvur, let him hold an escrow until such time as things become clarified, right? Because Rav Amar, no, the reason why he can do this is because Basin shows so nigzal. Basin is convened by the person who was thieved from. Lo Basin shows so gzol, not the person who was the thief. Chela the Rav, well, how does Rav know this? I mean, I don't have this pasuk, the Amar from this statement, actually. Torah Hashem Elazar says, Shliach Basin shows so nigzal, has to be Shliach Basin made by the person who stole from. For lo Shliach Basin shows so goes, not the Shliach Basin made by the person who stole from, who did the stealing. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, Im b'shani ishba, it would talk about a case where the guy made a false oath. He doesn't have anything. So it should be bidot, the 4 lines with the missing should be bidot tani. In such case we say, Hayalo lishtok, you should remain silent. In other words, it says here, where does it say Hayalo lishtok? In the Mishnah, right? Where does it say that? Yeah, where was it?
If they're quiet, he just leaves it, and if they start clamoring, he has to give it to all of them.
No, that's a separate answer. The question when he makes a shvur. With the last answer he gave is kamish nishba, kamish shalom nishba. It's opposite baba kama kuf kimel kuf dalin in Mesilas Yesharis, right? See that? Okay, so kamish nishba, kamish shalom nishba means it depends if he took an oath or not, without any other variables. If he took an oath, he's got to give back to everyone because he has, besides Avera of Gazela, he has to Avera of false oaths. Okay? So in that event, so it says we're going on from where we are. If we tell you about where a case where he took a shvua, so again, it should say B'dar Tani, with this it should say V'im Lo, that V'im Lo Ayol Lishtok, V'im Lo Ayol, V'im Lo Ayol Lishtok. I thought I understood this, but now I'm not sure I do. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I don't. 1 second. Well, simple, it's Balbatish. It said before, he says to two guys, I stole from you. So it says in Bambatzia. How can you say he took an oath? When did he take the oath? He said he stole from them. Right? So where's the oath? So says the Gemara, again, Im Shenishba, so what are you going to say that they should, he should remain silent? Silent. He took the oath. I'm still not sure I understand it.
Who's silent here? The Nixon?
What?
Who's quiet here?
The Gazan. The Gazan.
But he made a shiur. So
that's the point. He should remain silent. He should remain silent. I'm not sure about what I'm saying. Let's barrel through it and see if it becomes any clearer. Again, says where Rabbi Yirmi boy Imbish Nishba, if we're talking about a case where he made an oath and he lied in his oath, and so he doesn't owe any money, whereas he does owe money. So Tani about this, we have learned the words as they're enumerated in the Brisa, where it says, Hayalo Lishtok, they should remain silent. He couldn't remain silent. He already messed himself by making shvur sheker. Rabbi Yirmi said, Meimar, yeah, Hayalo Lishtok, Lolo Dos. Yes, it's true. It's true he took a shvur, but afterwards he should have clammed up and not made an additional confession. That way he would have gotten out of having to give to each person. Rabbi Yossi Savar Meimar, Hayalo Lishtok Lo Lishavah. He should have been silent altogether. He was a fool for speaking, right? But now he's speaking, Itaka loses all, Itaka loses the right to give them one mana. He has to give each one a separate mana, right? And reimburse each one equally and separately. Rabbi then said, this is going back to the case of Rabbi Hila on top, that the difference between Shokim and Medabrim. So it says more, Afilu te Madinan Amrin, Rabbi Hila said, Afilu te Madinan Amrin, he shoskin him Medabrim, Bigzela. Even if I say that there's no difference between talking and speaking by Gzela, that by no matter what, you either give each one the separate gzela, or you give one between all of them collectively. Might it be pikadon? Even they say that the voices make no difference. By pikadon, everybody concedes. The shasak miskar, if somebody shuts up, he gets profit. And if somebody speaks, should be mafsid, he loses. How so? The shasak miskar, somebody means quiet, it takes advantage. Minadov in this case. Shnaim shivkidu etzel echor. Two people gave, same case of Rabbi Tarfon and Akiva, except by Pikara. Two people gave a Pikara to an individual. Zemon, and one gave him $100 Pikara. The Zemasayim, the other gave him $200 Pikara. Zeomer Masayim Shali. And now we don't know which is which. So one guy says the 200 mine. Zeomer Masayim Shali. The other guy says the 200 mine. So what does he do? He says he gives the money to each one of them. And the rest of them is left until Elio Novi comes, right? So in any event, we see here that since he didn't say anything, he was silent. They came to him and each one claimed $200, but he didn't say anything. So how much does he have to give in this case? $100. Right, 100 to each one, not 200 to each one, because he was silent. However, if he speaks, he's an idiot. The mishtoi mafsid. If he speaks, he loses. Because it says, for in our case, Omer Gazati Zucham Mikem, any of them Ezim Mikem, and it goes on and says, if he says he got a pikadon, and he says he doesn't know from which one he got it, then he has to pay the full amount to each one. So even if you say that the shoskim and dabrin doesn't make a difference by gzela for whatever reason, by pikadon it definitely does make a difference. And if you speak, you're far worse off than if you didn't say anything.
He's just admitting that he doesn't remember who he gave.
Yeah, never admit. Doesn't your insurance card say never admit to any liability? So the same thing here. The moment you admit to liability, it's really the same svara. The moment you admit to liability, you really have to be yotze the complete thing. If you're just silent, then it does be yotze. Now that's not necessarily true by gzela, because by gzela you might be yotze the complete thing no matter what. Why? Because you have to do proper tshuva. But b'kadon you might not have to yotze the complete thing unless you admit. Okay. He's going to be here in 5 minutes. We'll take a running leap to the end of the parak. I don't think we'll make it. We'll try. What?
We can make it into the
I don't know. Now, this mission is based on two major principles: Peshasa, Peshiter, and Chazaka. Peshasa, Peshiter means if you would not know something unless I told you, you have to believe me everything I say about it. And Chazaka means whatever we assume before she left the Chutz La'aretz, we assume took place. Continue to take place. Okay? They had a nice family when they went to Chutz La'aretz. She and her husband and her child. And then she comes and says, my father died and then my son died. So therefore she's off the hook completely, right? No evil to be done, right? They meant it, she's believed. But if she says, and now she wants to be Misyabemes. Right, because her son died first, and therefore her husband died. She's kukuliyulim. And she's not believed. She's not believed to give herself the right to be misyabemes. The question is, however, we're afraid she might be right. The choletzes v'lo misyabemes, and she does require chalitza. Similarly, actually not similar, different case. Nitan lo ben b'mdina sayam. They got a son in Chutz La'aretz. Amrav meis beniva, achar kach meis bali, and then she says, my father, first my son went, then my brother died, then meant she's believed. Meis bali, achar kach meis beniva, she says the opposite, that the son died second, therefore she be evil, and then meant she's not believed. The question of the Vrem, we assume she's correct, however, for choletz, chalitza, no evil, right? So now we learn, nasan li yavam b'mdina sayam, if a brother-in-law, a new brother-in-law, or new brother of her deceased husband was born while in Chutz La'aretz, Amr meis ba'ali, if she's believed, she said, my husband died, v'chagam meis yami, then my Yovam died, or yami chagam meis ba'ali, nemes, both of the cases she's believed. Now, why is she believed here in both cases? Of course, she's not believed ever to be mishabem, right? Because here she's saying that both died anyway. Right. Saying both died anyway, so therefore there's no yibum, so therefore she's believed.
It doesn't matter who died.
Right, doesn't matter who died first, right. As long as they're both dead, right? Where am I up to? She went with her husband and her Yovam to Chutz La'aretz. She said her husband died, then my Yovam died, or my Yovam died, and then my Baal died, and she's not believed. Why is that? Unique thing. A woman is not believed to say, Meis Yavmi, Shetina say, to say my Yovam died that she should get married, nor that my sister died, should be able to marry her deceased sister's ex-husband. And man is not believed to say that his brother died in order to allow him to go be miyabem his allegedly deceased brother's wife. Nor may say that his wife died, in order that he should be able to marry his her sister. Okay? So the general principle is that whatever, she's never believed to take herself out of a chazaka. She's believed to sustain a chazaka. And she's always believing in pesha asar pesha hitir. Okay? Pesha asar pesha hitir generally means where she has a chazaka in her favor. So even if she claims situation change, she can change back and say that, but it's still the way it once was. No, not making sense, right? The case I gave, it's not explicit in the Mishnah, at least I don't see in the Mishnah explicitly, but it's going to be in the next paragraph, I think. She left without a son. No, it's a bad case. She left with a son. No, that's not a good case either. She left without a Yavam. She comes back and says, when I left, I had no Yavam. In Chutzotz I got a Yavam, but then he died. So she's believed in that case. Why? Because what was the chazaka? That she was exempt from Yibum. She said she was Mechuim Yibum, Peshasa Peshaita, right? Just like believe with the Aser, you leave her to be Matir, right? Because we only know that she had a Yavam on the basis of her say-so. But if we knew that she had a Yavam before she left, then we don't believe her to say my Yavam died. We believe her on her husband, but not on a Yavam. Because that was the Chazal's Gezerah. Believe her on husbands, but not on Yavams. Okay? Does that make sense now?
Yeah, but the Yavam is actually, it didn't do Yibum on her yet?
No, Yavam's missing. We don't know where he is. He's presumed dead, but we don't know he's dead for sure. We don't believe her on that. Yeah. Says more, Rabbi China Boykun Rabbi Hila. Rabbi China asked him for Rabbi Hila. Man Tana Choshin Zvaria. Who's the Tana who says we are Choshish to what she says? And that perhaps that she is Zokuk Libum in the Reisha, and therefore Choletza as she needs a Chalitza. Rabbi Tarfon look Rabbi Kiva. It's Rabbi Tarfon and not like Rabbi Kiva. Now the Pnei Moshe and Korban Ada go to great length to try and explain what Rabbi Tarfon and what Rabbi Kiva are talking about. Rabbi said about Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Tarfon says we do contradictions between the Rabbi Tarfon said, if we believe her, we say that if a woman says that her husband died, then she gets to get remarried, but her co-wife, not only can she not get remarried, but she can still eat truma if the original husband was a Kohen, right? The Mishnah we started with. So they try and fit that into this Gemara. How that would possibly be going, our Mishnah does that Rabbi Tarfon, not like Rabbi Kiva. The Bar says it's an exercise of futility. He says it really doesn't fit. He says Yerushalmi very often has a Havamina, which it presents, which is half-baked. It's just a springboard for discussion. And immediately Yerushalmi changes his mind and says, everybody agrees with this. Rabbi Kiva even right here, even Rabbi Kiva would concede. What's the between this case and the previous cases of co-wives? That here he says she's believed, and here he says she's not believed. So it says more, the difference is chazaka. That when she left us, Mikal Hetel Yavam. She was assumed to be Mutter Yavam, right? When do you believe her? When she went out, and she was Mutter to Yavam, so when we assume whatever she tells us to allow her to be Yavam, in other words, she went out with a chazaka, she had no kids. And she comes back and says, I have no kids. There she's believed, right? When she says she's not believed, when she went out, she had a kid. She's not believed to come back and say, my kid died before my husband, in order to allow her to do Yibum. So basically what it means is everybody agrees, both the Kiva and Tarfon, that we always give her rights based on the chazaka she previously had to sustain the previous chazaka in the manner Pesha Osa Pesha Yitir, by saying, perhaps had a problem, but I overcame the problem, but we don't allow her to undermine the previous chazaka. Rabbi Yossi said furthermore, Maslisa Amar Ken, our Mishnah says a fundamental thing also. Shalasu Dvorav Kinekevos, they didn't make a guy like a girl. Meaning a woman is allowed to come and say Meis Bali and get remarried. But a guy can't come and say, my brother died and I want to be Miyabim, his wife. Where do we see that in our Mishnah it's not allowed? It says explicitly, right? The rest of the parak is a mistake. It should be, because it says in the Mishnah, the Korban Eder brings down, Mishnah says, the thing of Ve'ena ish ne'eman lomar, a few lines from the end of the Mishnah, it says, third to last line at the end of the Mishnah, Ve'ena ish ne'eman lomar meisa achid shi'avim es ishto, v'lo meisa ishto shi'isa achosa. He's not believed to say that only the wife is believed to say her husband died, but the brother is not believed to say his brother died, or to say a man is not believed to say that his wife died in order to be able to marry her sister. Okay? So women are believed. They're going to be more meticulous. Men are animals. We can't believe anything they say if there might be taiva involved.
Reason number one.